It's the Flow Friday night sports show, and baseball action continues on. We've got spring training games going on basically as we speak in the US at the moment, and at home domestically, club action nearing finals in Melbourne and in Adelaide and across our Flow network for those summer baseball leagues going on across regional areas as well. But a man who's been following it all is Dave Penrose from Baseball Australia. He joins us on the line. G'day, Dave. How are you?
Going very well, thanks.
Excellent. Now, the ABL season has wrapped up, as we know, but you announced some award winners through the week for the ABL season that was, I believe. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we certainly did. So season's wrapped up, and on the back of that had the managers vote for their best players across 6 different categories. So far we've announced the Rookie of the Year, which is obviously Australians are eligible, or local players, New Zealanders are eligible for that one as well. So it was shared by Adelaide Giants pitcher Mitch Newborn and Brisbane infielder Dermot Fritsch. So they both put together really impressive seasons. Obviously Mitch came over to the Giants from Perth and established himself in that starting rotation for the Giants, and was really important in them making their way to the playoffs. So it was fantastic for him. And I mean, Dermot was an interesting one that he didn't even start on. I think he wasn't even on the roster, the active 24-man roster for opening weekend for Brisbane. And through a few injuries that they had throughout the season, the Bandits got his way onto the roster. He played a handful of games a couple of years back, so he was still eligible for this award, but really established himself and, was involved in a couple of those walk-off wins that they had, and obviously they didn't quite make the playoffs, but he was one of their standouts. So really bright futures for both of those two Aussie guys.
Excellent. Well, good luck to them. Obviously, getting into the US at the moment for baseball has its it has its trials, I guess we could say. It's not easy to travel internationally, even for sport at this stage. So it's a big commitment when you know what you're in for when you head over there for that period, and then you have to come home, quarantine for a period if you can. It's not going to be much fun for them, I don't think.
Yeah. It's certainly trending in the right direction over in the US now, where it's, the opposite to 12 months ago, where COVID was becoming a bigger issue, obviously around the world, and played chaos with the baseball over there, and, cost a season for all of our minor leaguers, and college guys as well, I guess, that, got underway and then weren't able to finish their seasons. But this year, hopefully things are trending in the right way. The locked-in schedules for the minor league baseball season, so they'll start towards May. I think it's early May now, so it's about a month later than normal. And then, the US Major League season, spring training is underway. So we've got the few Aussie guys that are on 40-man rosters, Liam Hendricks at now Chicago White Sox, and Lewis Thorpe at Minnesota, and Alex Wells at Baltimore, that will be involved in that.
And it's not just players getting involved over there as well. We've got I believe one of our ABL coaches is heading over to do some work with and on the Jersey Shore. Is that right?
Correct. So, Chris Adamson, who has been involved with Philadelphia for a couple of seasons now, and he went over to the US last season, but was one of those that was caught up in what happened, the impact of COVID, and was meant to manage. So Chris is a 32-year-old, so he's a very young manager, and a terrific achievement for him to be appointed as they were then the Lakewood Blue Claws last season. But went over there, didn't get to lead him into a game, still stayed involved obviously throughout the Phillies organisation once he returned to Australia, and had a lot of Zoom and Skype calls and those sort of things at 2 a.m. our time and everything. But he's heading back over with now Jersey Shore Blue Claws, so they've been renamed, and they've actually been promoted a level as well. So they're a high A, so in that third tier of minor league baseball. So it makes it even that more impressive. As I said, he's a 32-year-old, so quite a young manager. It doesn't feel that way because he's been involved in the ABO as a manager for 4 years now, but really significant for him. And he's not alone. There's other Aussies, Andrew Graham, who was also a member of Team Australia's Premier 12 coaching staff, as Adamson was. He's in Detroit's system, and a few other guys like Tyler Anderson, and also Alan D. San Miguel that have had coaching roles, assistant coaching roles in minor league systems at the moment. So there's quite a few of them over there.
Absolutely. So we wish all of them well, and now we'll return to domestic news. We'll start in Melbourne, where their competition continues on. I think they've still got 2 weeks of minor round matches left to play, have they not?
Yeah, they certainly do. So a couple more weekends of minor round action before they head into their two rounds of finals, effectively. So it's quite tightly fought over there. So obviously they break up into the two conferences, and it's been a bit weird with the impact of COVID and that shorter season over there with them. Maybe not seeing all of their conference teammates, but probably the team to beat has emerged as Waverley this season, who didn't even make the finals last year, but they're rolling along at 10-2 in the top of that Eastern Conference. But below them, Upwey Fentree Gully and also Cheltenham Rustlers are fighting for that second spot in the Eastern Conference. And in the Western Conference, it's really, really tight. There's Sandringham, Sunshine and Essendon all locked up on 7 wins, and a win back from them is Geelong Baycats. So those 4 teams are still in contention as they head into the final fortnight of that regular season.
And in Adelaide, of course, Baseball SA heading into the final minor round of matches in Division 1 and the Division 1 competition. I think the final 6 is actually set, but not in position. There is a logjam at the top of this table, and this weekend's matches has a big role to play. The minor premier isn't even decided yet.
No, you're right. The top 6 is set following East Torrens picking up a midweek win and Golden Grove going down. But yeah, those positions, there's still plenty to play for. And the top 4 are sort of set. So fundamentally, it won't have a huge impact. But just getting that higher seed and that hosting rights, I guess, throughout can help considerably. So plenty of action there. But Sturt, Henley Grange, West Torrens, and Goodwood, you can throw a blanket over them, sort of thing. They're very tight at the top there, and throughout the season they've split games that they've played amongst each other. So it's going to be a really fascinating race. And then obviously East Torrens and Kensington on their day have shown their ability to compete with the best throughout the season as well. So it's going to be a really fascinating final series.
It really is. I tell you what I'm looking at this ladder, the thing that I'm struggling to come to terms with is down the bottom of the ladder. Obviously, Northern Districts are perennial cellar dwellers. They're just the 2 wins for the year, so they'll collect the wooden spoon. But have a look at second last and third last. Glenelg and Port Adelaide languishing down the bottom of the ladder. It's been a while since we could say that about both of these clubs, and they're really struggling at the moment.
Yeah, it's sort of twofold that they're struggling, obviously, at the moment, but there's a couple of other teams that, as this season has gone on, teams like Woodville that are quite young and Golden Grove Central Districts and even Southern Districts as well, they've started to, as the season's gone on, they've got better and better. So, Glenelg and Port were about middle of the pack throughout most of the season, but now they're starting to drop some of the games to those teams that are improving. So, obviously, you look beyond this season and those top 6 teams, there's some real positives to some of those teams in Golden Grove and Woodville that are building really nicely and hopefully have a bright future for them. But yeah, it leaves some work to be done for Port Adelaide and Glenelg.
Indeed, and the big clashes that you mentioned, we mentioned Port Adelaide there. They'll take on, at the moment, the top of the ladder, Sturt. So if they can knock off the second to bottom side, they'll win the minor premiership. But I think all eyes will be on Kensington. This is a game which could be replayed in the first week of the final series, actually. Henley and Grange, who are flying at the moment, they go away to Kensington. If they win that, and Sturt do slip up, then those two sides could go against each other in week 1 of the finals.
Yeah, there's still plenty to play for. So as I said, they're fundamentally pretty set, that top 4, but yeah, will be some movement, I reckon, coming into the last weekend. And, anything can happen in that last week. Some of the teams that are a bit lower down and out of finals contention, you go out there and free swinging, could be an interesting weekend.
That's right. Across our Flow network for our regional listeners, let us know how your competitions are going as well. Send me an email to news@flowfm.com.au. Dave, anything else for us before we wrap up?
There is one, a good little bit. Riley Yateman, an East Torrens Red Sox pitcher, has signed abroad with San Diego. So Riley has been on the train-on squad with the Adelaide Giants throughout the ABL season, but wasn't actually eligible to play in the ABL because he wasn't quite 17. Joined them for the playoff campaign where he turned 17 on the second day of those playoffs, but they were actually bundled out, so he didn't get these opportunities to debut. But out of quarantine at the end of last week, he inked a deal with the Padres and will head over there next season. So he's still finishing school, but he's a young pitcher that is really highly touted, not just in South Australian circles, but across the country. He's previously represented Australia at both the under 12 and under 15 World Cup, and was also named for the national junior camp that's in Canberra that we spoke about briefly last week as well. So, is well on his way to being selected for the U18 World Cup as well. Some work to be done, but, so really big news for him, and makes him, I think, about the fourth South Australian that we've got currently affiliated with a Major League Baseball organisation. So there's not a whole heap of them.
Excellent news. So good luck to you, young man. And Dave, great chatting with you as always. Plenty happening in baseball at the moment as we get towards the end of our season here in Australia. We'll chat with you again next week.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks, mate.